So we were an hour into All In, and we'd had 2 matches. And I'm thinking, well, certainly something's going to come up here that might be palatable. And we get the Intercontinental title match between Pac and Will Ospreay. And I got to say, the people were up for this one. They were standing up. They were going batshit. They're the hardest of the hardcores, and they wanted to see these two. To the average person, again, here's Pac, who's been here and gone over and over for the past 5 years, right? He's here, that he's gone for a year, that he's back, that he does this, he doesn't do that, whatever. But this is the crowd, the traveling pay-per-view crowd, the big city crowd, the hardest of the diehard AEW folks that still think Pac is worth a shit. They can overlook his rotten basics and his incredible lack of any consistency in booking whatsoever. And they wanted to see him and Ospreay flip with each other. Is that pretty much it? Because why else would you want to see this match to that degree that they stood up and screamed and yelled for this one? And they haven't buried Ospreay yet.
And that does say something, that it seemed like the fans reacted more to this match than maybe anything else on the show other than reacting to Bryan Danielson as a person.
Yeah.
They were more into this match. And Ospreay has been booked badly like Tony books everyone, but his bad booking hasn't been as bad as everyone else's. And people do want to see him. And there are still unique matches that people have not seen yet. And obviously him and Ricochet's coming up, but him and Pac is one of those matches. Pac is, one of the preeminent high flyers of the class right before Ospreay.
That's why every time he gets up on the top rope, it takes him 15 seconds to fucking stand there and get his balance.
If I was a manager against him, I would bring like anything, like Nerf balls to throw at him when he was up there taking his time.
A gentle breeze might bring him down. But anyway, that's what they wanted to see this because it was a video game. They didn't care who won. They didn't care whether anybody killed themselves or not. They wanted to see everybody flip around. That is this audience. And this was the flip match, so they wanted to see the flips. And in the first minute, Pac had gone to the top and dove off to the floor with the corkscrew dive, so then Ospreay immediately did the same thing. Threw him back out and dove on him, and Tony Schiavone said, "What in the hell are we watching?" I was thinking the same thing, but not with the same emotion behind it. But remember, I loved Ospreay and MJF. There were a few things they went too far, but in the AEW field, that was one of my favorite matches. Because MJF's going to wrestle, and he's going to try to make shit make sense, and that controls Ospreay's worst instinct, because he's like a lot of these guys. He needs to be produced. He's not smart enough to know when to not do something that he can do just because he can do it. But these two, they bring out the worst in each other with the aggressive parkour and the indie tropes, as the kids say. So for a match, no, it was garbage because, and I'll tell you why here in a minute, a few of these false finishes. It's a gymnastics competition. If wrestling was going to be in the Olympics like ray gun and breakdancing, this kind of shit should be in it. They're very athletic, but it's fucking stupid phony. And they both work the same. Neither one's really the babyface or the heel. There's no continuity. They're doing big moves to each other back and forth, and Uncle Dave will say, "Oh, but Ospreay kept going back to selling his neck because that's the story." Yeah, he'd sell his neck in between goddamn doing shit that no human being could possibly endure and popping up from it. Pac German suplexed Ospreay on his head on the ring apron. Then he gave him a reverse Hurricane Rana on the ring apron on his head. Then he rolled him in the ring and didn't cover him. He grabbed a submission hold. And then Ospreay gets the ropes to break the submission hold. What the fuck? They have made this shit up themselves, and they've never listened to or had the opportunity for anybody to teach them. And now they think they know and they won't listen. The very next thing after they did what I was just talking about, Pac took forever to balance on the top, and then Ospreay raised his knees, and then Ospreay was up running and flipping again like nothing was wrong. After he'd been dropped on his head twice in a row on the hardest part of the fucking ring. And then finally, again, after all of that, for 20 fucking minutes again, the weakest looking move, the hidden blade, is what Ospreay beat him with, 1, 2, 3. So you can be flung onto your fucking head from a 6 or 8 feet in the air and just pop right back up from that. But this fucking guy does an elbow over the top of your head from behind, and you're fucking done. You're finished. I heard people say this was a good match.
I wasn't watching this live. I saw everything the next day, but I saw a couple tweets while the show was going on, and a couple of them said this was an all-timer, an all-time classic.
Well, it is if you're wanting bad examples to show in wrestling school.
A positive is, at least the fans reacted to this match.
Well, they did. They did. And unfortunately, that is the position that AEW has put themselves in. This wasn't the main event. It involved one of their main eventers, the only one that they're getting any goddamn return on, Ospreay. The rest of them are deader than 4 o'clock. But how do you follow this? What is more to, well, I know how they're going to follow it, but if you were trying to do a wrestling show, nothing works. Nobody can be defeated. It's just a video game that these fucking marks in the ring, Pac and Ospreay, I'm sure they play plenty of video games. That's where they get their moves from. Instead of figuring out a way to draw money, Pac looks great. Great body, got the fucking stringy hair. He's got the menacing fucking voice. If he'd had a booker for the past 5 years and producers to tell him what to do and him listen and him be here continuously, then, you could do something with this guy. And the same thing with Ospreay. Despite the gravelly voice and the horrible accent and the fact that he's so...
Imagine him calling spots with that voice.
Oh, good Lord. They talked about being hard to understand Bobby Eaton. But that's the thing. He's got a lot of appeal and charisma and talent that you could use if it could be predicted. But this is just gaga, and it's all the same. People tune it out because it means nothing. They're just there to see the flips. And then what was the point of this match that people will remember after the rest of this show they see?
Well, I think it's 2 things. One, for the fans there and the fans of this style, it was a classic to them. But 2, and maybe more importantly, in some respects, this is a throwaway show after All In. Like, I thought All In was a better card altogether. I enjoyed it more, obviously. But Ospreay just had the big match there that he'd been building up to for a few months. This was built up in 2 weeks, right? A week, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So it was just, let's give them a really hot match and then everyone can move on and do other things. So that's what I think this was.